Good evening and welcome to this week's Fireside Chat. It's good to be with you here tonight. I've been on vacation for the last 2 weeks, so this is actually our first Fireside Chat of 2021. Tonight I want to talk about something that I've been passionate about for a long time. I want us to talk tonight about getting rid of the death penalty. Among all the other things that are going on in our world, COVID-19 and the attempted insurrection at the Capitol, I feel a story was missed today. This morning in the United States, our government executed Lisa Montgomery. It was the first time in 67 years that the United States government killed a woman by using the death penalty. This made me think that we have to continue to talk about the importance of abolishing the death penalty in the United States. Now, there's lots of good reasons to get rid of the death penalty. There's good political reasons to do it. I know that this is a bipartisan issue. Lots of conservatives who are pro-life people are for getting rid of the death penalty. Lots of small government conservatives are for getting rid of the death penalty. And there are lots of liberals who think philosophically there's good reason to get rid of the death penalty. I know this because that was a coalition of people that were able to abolish the death penalty here in the state of New Hampshire in 2019. I will say I had a very small part in that effort, but it really was more so the effort of dedicated people over 20 years that built a coalition that was eventually able to get it done. I'm not going to spend any more time tonight talking about the political reasons for abolishing the death penalty. I want to talk about the religious reasons or the spiritual reasons why it's important. And I have to say, I've changed my mind about this part over time. I was always against the death penalty, mostly because I just couldn't understand why killing people to show that killing was wrong was a good idea. How does killing somebody show us that killing people was wrong? But I thought in my mind, well, the biblical evidence could go either way. You could build an argument that the death penalty was allowed in Scripture. However, a couple years ago, I read a book called The Biblical Truth About the American Death Penalty that completely changed my mind. The book showed in fine detail how the death penalty in America is not a biblical idea. And I can't go through the whole book here tonight, but I wanted to go over what I considered the most important parts. So let's start at the beginning of the Bible. There's no doubt that before the fall, God's intention for humanity was for us to live in peace and harmony with each other and with God. That before we ate from the tree of knowledge, we didn't even know what it was to kill or hurt someone. We lived in harmony with God and with one another. That's God's intention for human beings. And the rest of the Bible is God trying to help us get back to that point. And it is finally accomplished in the book of Revelation. See, the home of God is among mortals. God dwells with them. They will be God's people. And God himself will be with them. God will wipe every tear from their eyes. Death will be no more. Mourning and crying and pain will be no more. For the first things has passed away. We see at the beginning and end of the Bible God's true intention for our lives. Of course, after the fall, sin creeps into our lives and we become afraid. In the story we all know too well, Cain kills his brother Abel because he is afraid that Abel is better than him. What is amazing about the story is that God forbids anyone to take revenge on Cain. God does not allow us to use violence as a way to solve our problems. The Lord put a mark on Cain so that no one who came upon him would kill him, unquote. Once again, we see that God does not want us to use retaliatory violence to enact justice. Now comes the part I bet you were all thinking about since I started. The part that is often quoted in support of the death penalty. From Exodus, quote, "If any harm follows, then you shall give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, stripe for stripe." There it is in black and white, right? Simple. God allows us to take a life for a life. Case closed. End of story. But like all scripture, it's not that simple. We have to consider why and under what context that advice is given. 7 generations after Cain, there was what was called the rule of the clan. In that rule, you were allowed to avenge sevenfold what was done to you. So if someone in your clan was killed, you were allowed to kill 70 people from the other clan. You can imagine that this led to chaos and lots of blood. God was trying to rein in the rule of the clan so that we could get closer to what God intended for us. This is a law of limits, not one that mandates behavior. God is trying to get us to cut back on our lust for retaliatory violence. And of course, Jesus furthers this by reinterpreting this law for us in the Sermon on the Mount. You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist an evildoer. But if anyone strikes you on the right cheek, turn the other also. And if anyone wants to sue you and take your coat, give your cloak as well. And if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go also the 2nd mile. Give to anyone who begs from you, and do not refuse anyone who wants to borrow from you. Jesus is getting us closer to the vision that God had for us in the beginning, and the vision that will come true in the end. A vision where we do not use violence to settle our differences, or even as a way to have justice. There's more I could say, but this is enough to see the death penalty is not a biblically approved way of dealing with crime. Instead, we're called to a higher ethic, one of forgiveness, reconciliation, and love. And I want to say this too, that when we take a life, that's it. That is the end of it. We have cut off any hope that God could and would redeem that life. We have cut off hope of forgiveness and reconciliation. I will not defend the horrible things that Lisa Montgomery did. I will tell you, if you've read her story, she led a very tragic life, and that I wish she could have had the chance to be loved and cared for. I wish she could have known the impact of God's grace. And now, that is impossible. And I want to say one final thing, and that is to the family of Bobby Joe Stinton, who Lisa killed. I cry for your loss, and my prayers are with you. I can't imagine the pain that Lisa's acts have caused all of you. But I don't believe that killing another person will make that pain go away. After Timothy McVeigh was executed, one of the victim's family members said, I needed to know in my heart that I was done with this man, but I don't think anything can ever bring me any peace. Killing someone else didn't bring closure to this person thought it would. Only true healing comes from forgiveness and reconciliation that teaches us to reach for. I hope that someday we will look back on this time and think how foolish it was that we allowed the United States to kill people in our name. Until that day comes, I hope you continue to join me in continuing the work to get rid of the death penalty and all other forms of retaliatory violence. Just some things I've been thinking about this week. I hope you heard something here that will be spiritually helpful to you. And until next week, may God continue to bless you all.